How's everyone doing? Just want to take a few minutes to talk a little bit explicitly about cheating within the world of sport. Obviously, when you're talking about sports deviance and violence, you can only imagine that cheating is going to be a part of most conversations that we have. But up to this point, I just want to take a real quick minute and talk a little bit about it and sort of pose a couple of questions for you. One is simply, what is cheating? And I've done this numerous times throughout classes and kind of trying to develop a working definition. And most people are like, well, you're doing something that violates the rules of the game. And yeah, that's true. And then, most people then in class talk about, well, there's kind of an unwritten rule or rules or culture in most sport, and so maybe cheating is violating that. And so you get into this kind of problem of looking at and understanding cheating. When Mark McGwire in the late 1990s was seen to have andro in his locker, well, according to the banned substance list in Major League Baseball, what he was using was not technically on the banned substance list, and so rumors started to fly. Yes, he was using a performance-enhancing substance, but that substance at that moment was not banned. It eventually became banned, and so the question becomes sort of philosophically, was he cheating? Well, and that brings up the contextual aspect of cheating, is that what constitutes cheating depends on time, space, and then the social environment around it. But that being said, the moral judgments of people in those particular time and spaces and places, that takes place in a social, or what we call a cultural space and context, and is very important for maintaining those rigid definitions for what constitutes cheating. Well, so that brings up a couple different things in terms, and we'll talk about different categories of cheating very quickly, but also more importantly, it's not necessarily cheating unless there's someone that says, oh, you violated a rule, you broke some sort of protocol, that kind of thing. And so the idea of power is very important, because if you go way, way back to the very beginning of the semester, we talked about conflict theory and the association with power. Well, what is a definition of power? Kind of a working definition is the ability to force someone to do something that they would not ordinarily do. And that sounds very menacing, and it's not meant to be, but the idea that not everyone has power in an organization. If you look at, this is a picture of Roger Goodell, commissioner of the NFL, he's in a very powerful position. He does not make nearly the amount of money that Peyton Manning does, or Tom Brady, or some other NFL athletes, but he has more power. Okay, so power is not always associated with money. Well, then also when we start talking about maybe less within one league, but looking at and understanding cheating from a societal point of view, there is a sense of social class. Now, it's not overt, it's not explicit, but generally the people that are in charge of administering sport come from the upper social classes of society. And so you can start to set up this dynamic where the people from one class that administer sport and enforce rules and have power and decision-making abilities, that kind of thing, and the people from other social classes that are participating, that are the recipients of this power differential or these judgments, things like that, it starts to set up that there's this, these class struggles, so to speak. Another important part is that wealth, power, and prestige, Max Weber talked about this, they're all a little bit different, and having prestige associated with sport is going to influence definitions of cheating. It's also going to influence who's deciding what constitutes cheating behavior. Every year in the NFL, you have the rules committee that meets after the season, and they talk about things that happen and what new rules to enforce or create, those types of things. Players are not privy to that information. They're only privy to what decisions are made, just like the rest of the general public. And so when you think about cheating, you have to keep in mind it's just like deviant behavior. It depends upon who's deciding what constitutes cheating. Cheating in basketball, right? Well, doesn't it kind of depend on if you're playing NBA basketball, intercollegiate basketball, if you're playing FIBA international basketball, or you just playing a pickup game in some neighborhood in a public park. Cheating is going to be different based upon those particular contexts. Oh, cheating. It sounds so easy, doesn't it? One of the famous examples, and this is pretty old, but one of the famous examples was Ben Johnson, the Canadian sprinter in the 1988 Olympics, and he won the 100 meters. It was very impressive. However, it later found out that he tested positive for basically like a synthetic steroid, a banned substance. The old adage, Jerry Glanville was a NFL coach for many years, and he said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So this idea that cheating is kind of part of the game. When you start thinking about the definitions and trying to change what constitutes that, that becomes very, very problematic. So we have two different types of cheating. You have normative cheating, and you have the illegal or deviant type of cheating. Normative cheating is exactly what it sounds like. It's something that occurs within the game that most people kind of accept, and you're going to be minor sanctioned. These are going to be rules violations within games, so on and so forth. Deviant cheating is going to be something that's outside the norm, something that people inside the game, outside the game, view as negative, as bad, and so as a result there's going to be usually some severe form of punishment, and that can be a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be just PED use, it can be a lot of